Hello everybody, welcome to Toys, Talk and Stuff and a special Saturday edition of Science on Saturday. And today we're going to talk about the science of the hand. And what inspired this was I was at my favorite secondhand store and I found the Mega Cyborg hand, which you can purchase this currently for about $28. And I was lucky enough secondhand to get it for $3.50. So I'm going to tell you what I had to do to get this working a little bit better and what's a little bit wrong with it. So this is one of the hands we're going to go over today, and I have even more that I can show you. All right, so now I've shed a little bit more light on the subject. All right, so the way that the Mega Hand works is through hydraulics, and air pressure. So using air pressure actually as the hydraulic mechanism. You know, hydraulics often use an oil inside a tube, and it's compressed, and that pushes the oil through a narrower chamber, thus increasing the force. And the same thing can be done with, instead of oil, air. So the way that this works is you have these hydraulic chambers here. You have a trigger underneath. Now the trigger is for your fingers. You see, your fingers can go in here. And all this is, assembled. You assemble this, and it says it has like 203 experiments in the box. I don't know how they get really 203. Let's be realistic. You make the hand, you play with it as a hand. There's a couple things you can do with it, really, and then you're done. But still, what's important is to understand the principles of what they're doing here. So you would pull the trigger here, okay, the lever, and then that's going to move this armature here. Let's try to show that to you. This armature, okay, see this white armature here? That's going to pull that. And then that's going to pull this shaft, which is going to decompress, or compress actually, this spring, which is then pushing air through this chamber, through a hose, into another decompression chamber, basically. Or actually, no, I'm sorry, it's still compressing. It is compressing air in here, and that's going to move the finger. And let me show you how that works. So I pull this here, and then that moves the finger. Very simply, okay? So I pull that, you see the lever, the white lever moving, and then that is moving this yellow shaft, which is then attached to this orange shaft here that has a spring on it that pushes air through the blue chamber, compresses it into the hose, and then compresses it into this chamber, which then pushes a lever that moves the finger. Now, how does it go back into position? You might be asking yourself, or maybe you're not asking yourself. But basically, you have to work springs against themselves, okay? So you have a spring here. You're compressing this spring with this lever, okay? The finger lever is compressing this spring, and then that spring is compressed, and it's going to push back out. So it's going to pull the air back out of this chamber for this finger, through the hose, back through this, and then that's going to re-extend this finger here, okay? Also, there's a spring inside this chamber here, so it's when you're compressing the air through here. I could do it actually just by pushing on it here with my thumb. Okay, I'm compressing the air here, and then that's moving. There's a plunger inside here that's going to stop the air. It's going to push the air. The plunger is rubber on the outside, is a rubber gasket, and that's pushing air inside this chamber that is then pushing this lever here, which is what's causing the finger to compress. Does that all make sense? Okay, and our bodies are a little bit different. The way our fingers work is you have a muscle, okay, that is in our forearm and our finger, but largely in our forearms. And then you send an electrical signal from your brain. Your brain, you say, I want to move that finger. You know, you think that. And then your brain has learned how to send an electrical signal to the muscle tissue here, which then pulls the muscle, shortens it, okay, and that pulls a shaft, which is your tendon, okay, so the muscle compresses, pulls the tendon, and the tendon pulls the finger, and then you have muscles on the opposite side, which allow it to go back out. Now you can pull it back out, right? Or it's just going to kind of, even if you just relax, your finger is going to tend to go out to a natural out. It's not going to stay closed. So if you, all the muscles in your forearm, right, you have to think to close, make a fist, and then if you relax, they're still going to kind of open up, especially if your hand is facing down, right? It's going to open up. Or you can pull the muscles on the opposite side. That's the other shaft and spring, basically electrical signal shortening the muscles on this side, pulling the tendons, which you can see in the back of your hands. You see, you know, these tendons you have here, okay, in the back of your hand that pull the hand open, and then you have tendons on the inside of your hand that the muscles pull that close it, okay? So this works much the same way, but using air pressure. Now, some of the fingers did not work very well, and it's not because it was secondhand. Probably the reason it ended up in the secondhand store is because it doesn't always work that well. Now, the part for the thumb, the holder for the thumb is missing. So the thumb, I have to do it manually, but it probably didn't work well to begin with, and I did try to get it to work a little bit better, and I only was marginally successful with that. But I was better at getting the other fingers to move well. Now, this finger, which moves really well, was that way from the very beginning. The other two fingers, I'll show you here, this one, okay, the middle finger, and then this last finger here, they didn't move like that at all. They close slow, and then I'd actually have to kind of push them to get them open. I'd actually have to manually, they wouldn't spring, see how it just springs back? It wouldn't even do that well. Now I can get it to open up pretty quickly, and it wouldn't do that before. So what I discovered is if I put a little bit of water inside these chambers, that helps to make a better seal with the plunger inside and with the air in here. But I also made some other improvements. So this comes apart. You can take this apart. This unsnaps off. You have to be careful, but that's how it went together to begin with. This unsnaps off, and you can take these tubes off, okay? So there's your hydraulic tube, and you can run some water. Now you don't want to run the water too hard, because you know how when you turn the faucet on really hard, it gets what's called turbidity, and the water looks white. That means it has a lot of air in it. If you run the water just a little bit less than really hard and it's just clear, so what you do is you can take this, you unhook it here, and you can do this before you even put this together if you buy it, okay? So but you can unhook this if you're real careful. You can kind of move it with your fingers, or maybe take a screwdriver, a flathead, and kind of pop it open, and then pop this out. So you decompress it with your fingers. So you decompress the spring, and you run this tip under the water and slowly let it out, and just pull a little bit of water in there, like maybe half a centimeter, okay? So maybe like that much water. And leave it upright. Don't squeeze it, because then you're going to shoot the water out, okay? But you need to leave some water in there. And then put your hydraulic hose back on, okay? And then it operates better. You get more suction, and then you get a more efficient, plunging in there, more efficient moving of the air, so you get more power, so it moves the finger better. The other thing I did is I made the spring stronger. So the way I did that is, so you have to have the opposite pulling it back, right? So the finger springs back to motion, back to the first position, up, okay? So what I did is I just grabbed the springs, and fortunately, these are not really high quality springs. that this wouldn't work. They're lower quality, so it does work. So I was able to grab the spring, put my fingernails in there, and kind of just pull it apart and extend it and make the spring gap a little bit bigger, so it actually made the spring larger, so it would have a little bit more power going back to the open position, pulling that finger back up. I did that on all of these. I added water into all of these. I did it with the thumb, and I got just a little bit of success. Here's the thumb. Now the thumb, you're going to see it moves just a little bit and slow. So I squeeze the plunger in, and then I have to pull it back out manually, and you see it comes out very slowly. Now, these two fingers, these other two fingers, that's how they worked before I was able to fix them. So, all right, here's that thumb again. I'm going to squeeze that, and then you see it compresses very slowly. But at least we have the fingers working well, and that's pretty cool. So you slide your hand up inside here like this, and you can lock your fingers into every one of these, and there you go. You have your fingers on there. And this piece here that your hand goes up against, actually it has some levers that move forward and back so it fits any hand. And then you just squeeze it, and then you can squeeze all the fingers toward the thumb. Okay? So it's just like a clawed hand. Additionally, these actually can move inward. So you can pull them closer. You have a little ratchet in there, and then you can get your hand closer together. I think it's cool like this, though. It's more scary. And you can detach the thumb. It has a little trigger here. You can pull that out. And then you can move the thumb to the left, or to the right, or the left, or just keep it in the center. And I did everything. I ended up just liking it in the center. And let's see, just put that. We're live. And then that just snaps in. Okay, so there it is back in the center position. Okay, so, so this is your Mega Cyborg hand. I do recommend it as far as it's pretty cool looking, and it will teach, if you want, you can do a report on hydraulics and air pressure and springs and integrate that all into understanding this toy better. You could just buy it and play with it, and it's just kind of cool and scary looking. You could even paint it different colors and, do different things with it. Certainly better if you can get it at a really low price. Now this here, the thumb, I could somehow it hooked onto here so that your thumb, that piece is missing. So somehow it has to be oriented in some way that there was something that I could, thumb trigger with. But, really I'm just satisfied just to be able to do that. Now, long explanation of hydraulics. So I have a bunch of other little hands here, much simpler. And let me show you something that if you're old enough, you might remember this. Remember this? This has got to be at least 30 years old. This is like the old Terminator hand, but I think this came out before the Terminator. So you would have these individual, again, it's similar to the other one where the last two fingers are just one big trigger for the last two fingers. And then you have the middle finger and the first finger. And of course, everybody did the middle finger with this toy, okay? Yeah, haha. But you can do this instead. You can do, hey, it's okay. And you can do that with the Mega Hand too. So you can do everything's okay, and the thumb swivels, but there's a little bit more this can do. Yes, if you like Wolverine, it came with this. So this locks on, and you see this is supposed to fit around your forearm and clamp down, but it really doesn't. All right, and then you get your fingers in there. All right, and watch this. So you pull that, and look at that. You got some claws. So claws go in. There we go. Claws go out. Now, there. Okay, so that's that thing. All right, so pretty cool. You know, certainly fun for movie making. Has a little bit of some tips here to help grip things. All right, so that's that hand. All right, another hand I have. The purple hand of doom. So it's a sticky rubber hand. You have this lever here. This lever system here has been used for practical purposes as well as entertainment purposes for various toys. So this is a lot like the Terminator hand. You know, you have just the thumb in kind of a fixed position and then the fingers, but they all move at once. What's nice is the rubber. I have actually had to get something that's difficult, like a box that's like stuck underneath something, and I need something kind of sticky that has some grip to get it, because it's too heavy for any of my claw things to grab, but not between the weak grip and the stickiness of the rubber, it gave me just enough to be able to pull the box toward me so then I could get it. So anyway, actually has been practical, right? I have another. The Fantastic Four hand. Take a look at this. So, again, from my favorite secondhand story years ago. So this must have come out probably when the first or second Fantastic Four movie came out. The one with Jessica Alba. All right, so you have your hand here. Now, it does short mode. This is Mr. Fantastic's hand. So you squeeze the trigger here like a gun trigger, and it grips. It actually grips pretty good. It's got a little bit like a leathery sort of rubber grip here. So it's not hard plastic. It's kind of, you know, it's got this rubbery grip to it. And then, because it's Mr. Fantastic, who gets stretchy, you know, he stretches. It's got a thumb button here. You pull that, and the hand gets longer. So now you can grab things that are farther away. Also has been practical in grabbing something that's not very heavy, but is longer than my arm, and I've been able to grab it. So pretty cool there, right? All right. Another thing. Now this, the ultimate in toy practicality. Many a time I have dropped a toy behind a cabinet, and I needed something about 4 feet long that could get it. And you guys have probably seen this in a store. Grips quite hard, you know, and nice long grip. This has been around since the 80s. I had a job where I was picking up trash in the neighborhood, and I had a shorter one of these, but it was long enough that I was so good at it, I could walk without breaking stride and pick up cigarette butts with this and put them in the bag. So I'd walk, boom, grab it off the ground, put it in my little bag. I'd have the bag. And I would clean the whole neighborhood that way. And, you know, I could pick up pieces of glass and everything. And I couldn't stand this noise. So I opened it up, actually, in here. And there's a little ratchet. And I ripped that out so it would just be quiet. So, because I was using it a lot. And it lasted at least 4 years until I lost it, actually. All right, so that's this thing. And I think I got this from Five Below years ago. So you can still find these. They're really great. All right, so robotics. We have a little cat crawler here. And so here, how this works. Electronic grip. And this is basically one button that does all these different motions. And this is for taking trees out of the forest. So the practicality of like this machine in real life is if you want to get just an individual tree or a log out of an area without damaging the other trees around, you want to be selective about the trees. Let's say you're trying to, we need to use wood, but you're trying to be careful. You don't want to just cut down a whole bunch of trees. You're trying to preserve the trees and pick a particular tree. So this grabs the trunk, and then you can back it out. You know, and that's what this claw's for. All right, I'm going to be right back. I'm going to get one more simple claw. Okay, so maybe you all have seen this. So this is the folding claw. You know, I can't reach it. So there's a glass maybe up on the top shelf, and then, you know, it's got these opposing forces, again, like the tendons in your hand. So you squeeze this lever here, and then you have spring steel. So one is pushing, these two when you pull are going to push, and they're going to push this together, and these two are going to pull it back apart. So then when you're grabbing something, it's open, and then when you pull it, when you pull this lever, it works in the opposite. The way it's working is it pushes these forward and pulls these in, and then it grips. So it pulls, when you pull this lever, it pulls those in, and these are pushing, and then these pull it back open, and these relax, and then allow it to open. So I think I said that a little bit wrong the first time. So when you pull this lever here, it pulls these in, okay? And then these are actually pulling outward, but you're giving it more pressure with your hand squeezing. So you're pulling that in. That's pulling that together, getting a pretty good grip. Those are pulling outward, but not that hard, but hard enough to open it when you relax your hand, when you take your hand off of it, okay? So that's, making our reach a little bit longer. All right, now for something impractical, sort of. So, when I was a kid, I used to go hiking all the time with my friends, and we'd go hiking in the woods. Well, that was a time when there were no leash laws, and people had very big dogs that they left off the leash, and I got chased, me and my friends and I, got chased many times by big dogs running away. So I thought, well, if these dogs are ever going to get close, I don't really want to hurt them, but I do need to be able to defend myself. So I was into comic books and into Wolverine, so I thought, let me make some Wolverine claws. So they're sharp, but not sharp enough to puncture. They're made out of oak. So I bought some steel from the hardware store and bent it. And I bought some oak, and I took it to a belt sander, and I sanded it like Wolverine's claws. And in the comic book, it said Wolverine's claws were 3 inches past his fingers. So I said, well, maybe that's the right length. So I made it that length, and then I bolted it up through here. And then I thought, well, also these bolts can be used to defend, like a backhand, and then I can strike. And that way, if I'm on the ground and something's at me, I can kind of like, instead of get bit, I can have it bite the claws, and I can hit with these heavy oak claws. And I painted them, and I've had these like almost 40 years. So here they are, they're still together, and I actually never finished them. The idea is I wanted to put leather here, which I still can do. I have a lot of leather, I work with leather, making things, so I could do that, and maybe put a leather handle here, and then put a strap around it, and then I'm not going to hurt any dogs, and never will, but I was thinking of putting like a metal tip on these. So never used these, never heard anything with it, and I'm really glad that never happened. But, I was a kid, and, just thinking of things that non-lethal weapons I can use to protect myself. All right. Lastly, the coolest thing, I think. And this deserves its own show. But I'm going to show you at least most of it here. Now, some of you might have seen the episode where I converted that Bionicle fella on the back of that monster into that radio-controlled version, where it had the mace in one hand, and then it had the head that could swivel back and forth. And that was the 4-channel RC. Let me get you that episode number right now. Okay, so that was not long ago. It was episode 267. Okay, but I put out so many episodes so fast I can't keep track of what I'm doing. All right, so this is a replica of a bomb diffusing robot. So I was really lucky to get this inexpensively at Marshall's. So see this? All right, I'm going to get you a better image of it. But take a look at the head there, okay? So you have everything you need for grabbing and an arm, and it's got 11 digitally proportional motors. So what that means is it has 11 motors that actuate motion, and all 11 of them are capable of, you push a little bit and it moves quick, slow, and you push faster and it moves faster. You can, move things very slow or all the way one way or just a little bit. It's got a lot of flexibility, like a real, person, to be able to actuate quick, open, or move very slow, and maybe just move a little bit or this way, or a big grip. So it can do all that. Also, it has a camera. It has a high definition night vision, and you can use Wi-Fi. So the remote here, okay, you put your phone in here, you download the app for this new Bright robot, okay, and then your phone kind of springs and holds in there, and then you could use the night vision or just regular camera in there, and you can navigate anywhere in the house. You can move the robot and you can see what it's seeing. So that's really cool, right? Especially the night vision is cool. It works really well, actually. Of course, everything's green. And so when I do this thing in detail, I'm going to do an episode on this and I'll show all that, okay? But I am going to show you how it operates right now. All right, so I had to label the remote because it has a lot of different features here. All right, so I'm going to change the orientation of the camera and show you this robot here. All right, so here we go. Here's the other orientation. All right, so you can move the robot forward and backwards and turn it, treads, okay? Nothing beats treads. And then you have a forward set of treads, a backward, that you can lift the whole robot up. You can actually go downstairs with this. It won't go upstairs, but it will go over some pretty significant bumps. All right, so this is how you can move the neck forward and reverse. It has basically, you see how the neck is in two pieces, so you can move from the base or from the middle of it as well. See, like a swan. So you can get really specific with it. And then you have, you can swivel the neck left and right. And then you have your hand rotation. So let's say you're picking up a can or you're pinching something. And then open and closing. And you see it has like little suction cups in there. So it can grip pretty well. And let's see, I'm going to move it forward. And I'm going to have it grab this set of glasses. So there, it can grab the glasses, and then it can turn them and move them somewhere. And then you can rotate the hand if you want to place them somewhere. Move the neck backwards or forwards to give it to somebody, and move the whole robot, right? So, and then if you need to get up a little higher or a little bit lower, right? So, really the ultimate, right, in robotic hand technology. So, all right, well, thank you for being with me tonight on this kind of long episode, but I hope you really enjoyed it. There's a lot of science to unpack here, and I wanted to make sure that I included everything so it would be inclusive. So, all right, well, thank you for watching. Take care, and I will talk to you soon. Good night.